Seen 24-8, I was like, okay, this is he's here in the building. So, you know, it's a beautiful night for our franchise, and it's something that we probably will always remember. You know, Game 4 of the 2020 playoffs in this moment.
It was a special moment, no question about it. And Swagoo joins Big Perk and Timothy Legler to talk basketball here. And Marcus, let's just start with that. With the entire day, again, it comes on the day after Kobe's, what would have been his 42nd birthday, and then all of what we saw last night. What went through your mind as you were watching that part of it, Marcus?
It was absolutely amazing, G. But it also speaks to the mental capacity and what sports do from an emotional standpoint. That's all I thought about during the game. I tweeted out, damn, Kobe, it still doesn't feel real. And you see these players respond like that. Listen, don't think for 1 minute that the Lakers' performance wasn't about Kobe Bryant's legacy, memory, and what he did for so many years in the Lakers jersey. That was a representation of that. And we can talk about Kobe being there in the building, his spirit hovering around this team and them wanting to honor that. But this goes to the point of what LeBron has talked about, AD, all of the players in the NBA that have become centric with this Mamba mentality. The way the Lakers played is what we usually term as inspired basketball. And in this time, in this climate, they're in a bubble. No fans are actually in the complex with them. To have that type of motivation put the lights out on the Portland Trail Blazers. So when we go further and we talk about the psyche of teams, the psyche of players, why you play is a big deal to a lot of professional basketball players. And you could tell that Kobe's spirit was palpable in that complex when the Lakers took on the Portland Trail Blazers. And we knew that Portland had no chance once we saw them playing with that memory in mind.
That's really well said. Kendrick, pick up that thought.
Well, Swagoo is right. He's preaching the gospel, Greeny. That Mamba mentality was all through that building. It's been all through the bubble. If you look at all the guys that Kobe has touched and was a mentor to, guys like Jason Tatum, who has been playing phenomenal with that Mamba mentality. Guy like Giannis, who's been dominating for Milwaukee. You know, your MVP, everyone's MVP, who's been playing phenomenal. And then you look at a guy like Anthony Davis and LeBron James, who's wearing that Laker uniform last night. They were ferocious on the defensive end. They had the Mamba mentality from the start. That Lakers team came out with it on their mind. They had it on his chest. And I said it last night that the great Kobe Bryant was smiling down from the heavens above and was pleased with the performance that the Lakers put on for him last night.
Yeah, in so many ways, it's still so hard to believe that we are where we are with regard to that. Legs, you have a quick thought? I want to get to the game here, but Legs, you have a quick thought on what we saw last night from the Lakers and honoring Kobe as they did?
Yeah, there's no question. Greeny, it gave them some extra juice last night. That team came out. They had a look in their eyes. And, you know, it was unfortunate for Portland that they had to be the victim on that court because the Lakers came out with an intensity that was clearly fueled by the memory of Kobe Bryant. And I think it's a testament to how beloved he was to think that, you know, we're 6-7 months after his passing and you could still drum up that kind of emotion to go out there to play a basketball game. But there's no doubt about it. I think it did affect their performance last night. They came out and suffocated that team defensively in particular right at the start. And I think all of it was a testament to their feelings about Kobe Bryant.
All right, fair enough. In the meantime, Legs, what a difference a week makes. I had you on the day after game one of this series. And the Lakers just looked terrible. And in particular, they shot 5 of 32 from 3. And last night, they shot 56% from the floor. So the Lakers have clearly woken up. And right now, I would ask you, what do they look like? As you watch every team play in the bubble right now, what do the Lakers look like to you?
I think right now you'd have to put them at the top of the list. And when you start talking about the favorites to win this thing, I mean, obviously going into it, they were right there in a small group. I think them and the Clippers and the Bucks were at the top. But the Lakers, I think, have separated themselves, obviously, right now with the way Paul George is playing and some of the struggles the Clippers have had defensively. And Milwaukee even started out pretty inconsistently. The Lakers are a team now that have just gotten better every single performance. I think once they got their preseason out of the way, those 8 games, and they got caught by a hot team in that first one, they've made the adjustments. They've upped their play. I think the one thing that has stood out to me, and I don't think they've been given enough credit really all year, how great their defense can be when they are locked in. And when you look at the way they played last night, no team in the league can have their bigs that far out on the floor, extending that much against pick and roll, which you have to do against Portland's guards, and still be able to track those guys to the rim because of their foot speed, their length, their athleticism. That was a dominant performance last night. You almost felt sorry watching Portland try to operate offensively in the first half of that game because they just had no space anywhere on the floor. And that's the one aspect of the Lakers we have not talked enough about. We talk a lot about their shooting, and that was fantastic last night. They put both of those things together on the same night. That's when you get that kind of blowout performance, and obviously they've taken control. And right now, to me, that was the best performance I have seen in the restart out of any team on both ends of the floor.
Big Perk, have they figured out whatever their issues were? We talked about whether they had enough shooters on a given night, and they start if the competition level starts to step up. We talked about a little bit of a lack of depth, perhaps, particularly with Avery Bradley not being there. Whatever the concerns were, have they answered the questions for you?
Well, Greeny, I didn't have concerns. You probably had concerns. I never had concerns. One thing I know is that defense wins championships. And when you look at this Portland Trail Blazers in the start of the bubble in the 8 games, they were averaging 126 points on 48% shooting. Since the start of the playoffs against the Lakers, they're averaging 101 points on 41% shooting. And Legs talking about the bigs being able to defend the perimeter. You're talking about Anthony Davis, the defensive player of the year, the guy who could switch 1 through 5, the guy who could hedge out and trap pick and rolls and recover, a rim protector. So when you look at the dominance performance by Anthony Davis, he's a plus 84 in 87 minutes in the last 3 games in these playoffs, and he's been dominating. You ever been to Chicago and had Harold's Fried Chicken? That's what the Blazers has been to Anthony Davis, because he's been cooking them on the offensive end. I mean, he's having it his way.
Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.